Or like, so like majority of the people that I immediately are like looking out for help, one thing is that this is not going to be like a one-time thing. If you require more help, then like, and you're interested, then like I'm more than happy to like you leave that opportunity open. And another is that I try to keep it concise, so like you actually learn something rather than be like dumping you everything and then expecting you to just pick everything up. So how do you think this matchup works?
I get kind of bullied early, but I think once I start getting power spikes, like level two boots and revolver, and then like gunblade, those are like areas where I can possibly win all ins or at least have pressure. Um, but yeah, aside from that, I think I just get pushed in and just try to skill.
Yeah, you lose the shove game, which is like the one thing that you need to worth like, that is worth like mentioning, because does this guy by himself carry you like carry games?
Who?
Does Rumble by himself like single handedly carry a game?
Oh no, absolutely not.
Yeah, right. He's like an enabler. Like he's the one that is going to get like other people in the side lane strong, right? At least that's the way that you should look at it. So when that happens, and like that's something that you should be able to identify from drafts, and then it should be a connecting point based on like what the way that you're playing. So first of all, fleet footwork and then Doran Shield, like you're not going to be taking too much damage in the earlier phases unless you're like recklessly trading against this guy and the force, and then like giving him an excuse to burn ignite. Then you're going to be too low. Then you're not going to be able to help sidelines, which did not really happen. But the point that I'm trying to get across is that you really don't lose early game HP traits unless like you play really like aggressively. So you should be like your entire goal in this laning phase early on, especially like during the first clear, is that Olaf gets at least one scuttle crab, right?
Yeah.
And if he is able to get one Scuttle Crab and go even, and then by the time that he is level 4 to 5, then he's just going to be outperforming Kane in the one-on-one situation. So as long as you either one match roams with Rumble or prevent it from roaming, then he should be able to dominate through mid lane. That seems like a pretty good game plan, right?
Yeah.
The thing is that it doesn't go as well as planned. So the first thing to keep in mind is that this guy like starts the lane like basically the best way that you ever want it to happen. He's half HP and he already burned the pot. What does like so from this point on was like so how does the game evolve from here?
So from there, I can actually, where I would normally like get shoved in and lose pressure early, I can like force trades with him, and eventually, like even if I get like half HP, by that time he'll be like 1 HP and he'll have to back, or I'll just have like permanent like lane cryo,
You
and then
okay?
I should be able to do what he wants to do.
So one thing to keep in mind is that Olaf does indeed start on the enemy's red or Raptors to be specific, like on the enemy's red side. So the best thing that he wants to do right now is either he could prevent a cross map by going across and then pathing down, or do this, but vice versa. The thing is that if the Cade wants to get back into the game through his early deficit here, then he has to take this, right?
Right.
So when that happens, then your goal right now is twofold. One is that Kane cannot gank you at level two. It's terrible for him to put points. It's terrible for him to put points into E at level two, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's not going to be able to do so. Even if he actually gets W and then tries to walk you over and apply pressure onto you, it's not going to work because you're going to hover this side. And if the Kane tries to walk over here and then Olaf shows up and he just dies, or he has to burn summoners.
Right.
So with that in mind, nothing should be stopping you from auto attacking this minion by a lot. Like you should be using your Q onto this range minion, clearing these through auto attacks to maximize your Q damage, and then just deal as much damage to the minion wave because you actually have the agency to crash this wave by the second crash. And when you crash the wave like this, then you get actually time to hover over here and then check if Kane is anywhere near Raptors or red. That sounds like a. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So the overall golden point is that this happening does not make sense for you. The fact that there's 3 minion range minions and you guys are hitting each other and you guys are staring at each other like this does not make sense. You should be hitting these. Nothing is stopping you from doing so. If you trade HP, it's fine because you have Doran's Ring and then you have Fleet Footwork. If this guy uses Q on you, you trade it with Q. It's not as if this guy's W to stop the damage, so you're not losing anything. And to add worse, like to make matters worse, you're playing into this wave when you should be like actually denying this guy's CS right now. If you stand in front right here and just tank this guy's E, who cares? You're going to be taking like 50 to 75 damage, which you're going to be able to recover instantly. So you're playing back for no reason. You shouldn't. So like you shouldn't be using your minion wave to Q right now. You should be using it right here. Because the entire point is to get the shove so Olaf could cross map safely. And after you get level 2, what are you afraid of?
Yeah.
Walk forward. Like, there's no point in you playing this back. You just saw us taste of damage, right?
Yep.
And let's see where your HP ends up.
Like full.
Almost full, right? Kind of crazy. How's and the moment that he gets into the silence field, then he's in trouble because you're just gonna whack him away. So like the point is that you shouldn't be playing this back ever, especially when you have your shroud up. When your shroud, what does it imply when you have your shroud up?
That I could be on top of him at any second, basically.
You could triple Q too, right?
Yeah.
And when you are able to use triple Q, then this minion wave should be arriving in tower faster, so to give him space. So right here, like there's a lot of things that you could do. You could check on this red buff. You could even cheater because this was the cannon wave that you crashed.
Yeah.
And when you see opportunities like this, what does this imply? So first, Olaf is covering mid lane for you, so there's no like CS loss, right? So that's one good thing. But when you're making this movement, what do you need to do right here?
Not sure.
So the issue is when does Rumble like really spike?
Level 6.
Yeah, he's the first to 6 champion. If he gets his ultimate before you, then you're kind of in trouble. And I think you notice this a little bit later, or you see the consequences of him hitting 6 a little bit later. But the point is that when you're actively like avoiding lane and this guy's getting more EXP right now, then you need to gap the EXP difference somehow.
I should just catch the wave.
You need to kill him. Solo isolated kill EXP is massive in this game right now. They buffed it for a reason. So right now, your goal right now should be killing this guy at all costs. So what do? One thing that you should do right now is you need to flash on him and get into his range. You needed to flash that Q. And then you needed to save your W for the energy reset other than to get too close to him. Because right now, you've used the energy reset that could have been used for you to get additional Qs or even weave in your E occasionally is now all gone to waste. So if you flash here, then you could get into his Q range, slow him, and they get the auto attack off and potentially like do the reset. And then imagine if you had 1 Q here and then auto attack, then you just kill him right there. And then you get setup gold, and then you're able to TP back to your lane. Then you not only do you minimize the EXP difference, but you also got yourself a kill, which is going to reflect the 800 gold, which you could most likely wait around a little bit more to get an additional like the amplifying tone. Yeah. So now you play like you're in like a little bit of a weird situation, because from this point on, what is the last thing that you should prevent from, like, what is the worst scenario that this lane plays out for you? Is it getting solo killed? Is it possible?
It's possible, but I'm up in items right now,
Mm-hmm. Good.
Once he hits six, it's bad. But until then, it's like okay. I just don't want to like get the lane froze on and then get all ins.
Mm-hmm.
Like get denied the wave and then he just all ins me when I try to break it.
Yeah. Good. So, the worst thing possible for you right now is twofold. One is you losing prio and then this guy being able to move. Like you said, you have an item advantage. You should be able to exercise it. If you don't, and this guy shoves your lane in, and then Kane is allowed to like make a play on Olaf because of that, then you're really losing the game. That's one thing that I noticed. Another thing that I noticed as well is if you trade equal HP with this guy and you have the first back and you have to burn a pot like this, then you're in really deep trouble because now this guy's gonna be able to reset at his own timer and then gonna get his item advantage. And then when he does come back is going to be when the real trouble begins. So what that means is that you need to either make the conscientious decision of minimizing trading with him when he has Fury Bar, because that's the best part about playing against Rumble. You know exactly when he's going to start dealing damage to you, right? Like when you're walking into here, you're pretty much opting into getting hit by at least one of his enhanced E's. And if you get hit by one of them, then you're just going to like lose the trade entirely. Because it's not as like he started putting points into it. He has 2 points into it right now, and it's gonna start hurting. So be a little bit more careful when it comes to trades. Just because you got the first back doesn't mean that you start moving trades instantly. In fact, if you do get the first back and come back and lose trades, then it is additionally more difficult.
Right.
Because then stuff like this happens. Where like this makes no sense at all, right? Why is this guy so this is Olaf's fault, first of all. He shouldn't be invading wolves ever. But another thing is, if this guy's allowed to have this room timer to like roam on his own, then you run into the issue of that happening. So what is the solution then? What is this wave?
I mean, I probably could have froze. Well, actually, I'm not sure.
So these waves,
Save my energy to trade with them
yeah,
because when I used it under tower, then when the waves meet in the middle, I don't have anything to trade with them.
yeah.
Even though
The
I have an item advantage.
the fact that you use Shroud here is the part that blows. So this is a slow push back. So you can't really pull the weight back unless he makes a mistake and then allows it to happen. But at the same time, he doesn't want getting shoved back either. So there's a high chance that he contests this. Remember, his ideal win state is like roaming to side waves. And when that happens, then you just have to be careful. Because like just look at how different like the slow push is getting established. And if you're a little bit higher HP and you have the abilities to trade him right here, then like your lane state would be so much better. But inadvertently, like he is just trading with you and then just like evening out your HP trade, and then all of a sudden this looks really awkward. This is already going to get established. That's the point. If this guy tries to stop you from doing it, then you could just freeze this wave in front of your tower and the Olaf is coming to Raptors. He dies. There's no point in contesting this because if he does contest it, then it is bad for him. And if he doesn't, then it's already good for you because this wave is going to naturally shove back if he decides to last hit. So intervention in this lane is unnecessary at this point in time.
Okay, that makes sense.
Good. So anyway, this guy trolls. He shouldn't be here. And now he has a little bit, like he has a dual EXP lead, which doesn't really matter too much. Double EXP is not the worst thing in the world. But you have to know that he has first to 6. That's one thing that you need to know though. He's probably going to hit it within this cannon wave, or if not a wave after this. And there he is. And when you're doing this, and trading HP with them as silences is good, but the moment that he's not silenced, you need to run away.
Right.
Because Equalizer is not affected by his Fury range. If he's not overheated, then it'll still deals equal damage. And in this situation, when Rumble has R, the worst thing that you could do is play in between your waves like this. Why is that? Because you're basically giving him what exactly he wants. With you Equalizer, the best way that you want to use it is you want to either one, damage your enemies and also get prio off of mid lane if you're going to use it in an isolated matchup. If he's going to use it against Olaf, then maybe things will be different, right? But if he's able to clean up this wave and also deal damage to you like this and shove you out, then this is his most ideal situation. So what do? You play to the side. Like, you don't play here. You play either here or here, and then attack this way or attack that way. Because if that happens, then he has to use Equalizer like this or like this and eat both of them. Don't cover both of the minion waves. Probably not. It's probably improbable. And it's easier for you to escape this way or this way because he hasn't had a chance to ward, rather than walking this way where he has full vision of you and could just run you down. And so normally, since the Olaf is on the boss side of the map, you'll just hover here and just kite towards Olaf. If this guy chases you through river, welcome, right? This guy's just Olaf is gonna come to you and to help you. So you're playing a lot. I hope you realize that you're playing a lot into this guy's win con and giving him a chance to win this lane. You can't do that against champions like Rumble that have simple kits. You should have died there. Because like you play in a relatively high MMR, so you could probably get this reference if I tell you. You know exactly what Annie does, right?
Yeah.
What do you need to do to beat Annie? What do you need to do to beat Malphite?
Just pretty much just play off their cooldowns.
Yep, good. Don't clump up it when they do have cooldowns. Like, make sure that you have summoners when you're like trying to play into their range. All the basic stuff, right? The point that I'm trying to get across is that it's really easy to identify those four like champions such as simple as Malphite and Annie. And you should be able to identify it for Rumble because he's not too difficult either. And because the reason why I need this is emphasized a lot is because mid lane is a role that is the most important in this game, and you control the flow of the game just because you're the shortest lane. And you need to identify win cons for your selected lane opponents and your jungler in order to be a successful mid laner. Why do you think Doinby won Worlds? Because Doinby understands specific matchups and how they're supposed to be meant to be played. He's not the most mechanically gifted mid laner in the world. In fact, he gets bodied by Rookie on a daily basis in laning phase. But the reason why he won Worlds is because he understood matchups and like champion game knowledge better than almost any other mid laner at the time. So like if your knowledge is ample and like you have so you press tab here and then you realize that you have a CS lead, right? 34 to 52. Do you think this Rumble cares that you have a CS lead?
No.
Not in the slightest. What he cares about is that he snowballs his Kayn. So in this situation, does this Rumble outscale you at first item?
No.
How is this Liandry's versus your Gunblade? Good.
I think I can still.
Yeah. In an isolated matchup, does a Liandry's Rumble stand a chance against Gunblade Akali?
No.
Absolutely not, right? So you don't lose, and it's iffy in first item spike. Does he beat you a second?
It depends on what I go. If I go like Hourglass, I think he would have an advantage.
Yeah. If you go Liandry's Gunblade and then this guy goes Liandry's Void, does he beat you?
No.
He doesn't. He definitely doesn't beat you at third item, right?
Right. Yeah.
But
I just
you just keep beating him as long as he doesn't outscale you or like outpace you specifically. So early deficits against this guy doesn't really matter as a result in lane, but across the map, if this guy keeps getting scores for your team, that's when you start having troubles. Why did I point that out before this lane? Because if you identify that, then you would not be farming this wave under tower. You'll be, the moment that this guy makes a map movement upwards like this, then you would be chasing right after. Because why would he go up here,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
I knew he was going for
Yeah,
Rumble.
Olaf is here. So because this losing this wave, especially when you already have ultimate, does not matter in the long term. And if you're able to use your first Akali R, because remember, Rumble used ultimate, right?
Right.
On your first Akali R and get a double kill here, you just end the game. Your accelerate to your first Gunblade spike, and if you get your Gunblade spike, then like this, they can just play the game. Imagine if you're 15. Imagine if you're 10 seconds earlier to this play. Not only does Olaf live and is actually able to apply DPS, you'll also kill Rumble. Do you have any questions?
No, it all makes perfect sense so far.
Okay,
I'm just
good.
like kicking myself because I feel like these are like really like obvious things, and I just like why don't I like
Why don't you think about them?
yeah kills me
Because nobody points it out.
yeah
Just because it's not pointed out doesn't mean that it's not important. I had a question for you in this. Why did you spend 800 gold on Sorks right here?
I wanted to be as strong as I could off that back.
And so then the follow up question is, why is that important?
Because I had all the gold on my team, so I wanted to match Rumble's runs and try to just like I guess keep my team in the game.
Okay, that's understandable. So right now, let's look at the turret plates that they have, like we have. So there's 3 up here, and then there's 5 on both mid and then bot, right?
Right.
If this thing gets taken down by Herald, do we care?
I mean it sucks, but
Does it?
I guess it depends on what they do, but I think it might be good for Yasuo because he can just freeze him in a tier two.
Do they really want to bust this tower right now?
I guess not because Cho'Gath is better in the shorter lane.
Good. Cho'Gath cannot go walk all the way over here and then break this freeze, and then in order for them to put major resources up here, then they are waging a fight with Olaf level 6 and Akali level 6 with item curve. So they're gonna lose this fight if they ever try to contest this, no matter how behind the Yasuo is. Just you two being there is strong enough for them to like dissuade them from doing it. If they get fast turret plates here, so what? Like this is us being behind in tempo, and that's the consequence of like our poor early game. So you don't need to be really strong right now. So because the most important item spike in Akali is the first Gunblade. If you get Gunblade as fast as possible, that's probably the way that you accomplish this, because you don't need to be strong immediately off the path, because the Herald is the only major contest that currently available. So you had the luxury to sit on this item and then get Cutlass components and then just wait until later.
That's very
Right?
yeah.
So like this is all disgusting when you really need to be strong. It's not as because like every single recall doesn't need to be like your maximum strength. If you have a more important power spike that you have to play around and you have to sack like early performance because of that, so be it. It's a really important skill to learn, especially on champions like Akali. Because like right now, like yeah, it's kind of result based, but look where like trying to get the maximum like spike got you.
Yeah, I just lost them. Right.
Not only do you fight into Rumble overheat, which is a mistake by itself, to be fair, but the real problem is that even if you're strong right now and then you play around this respectfully, you really don't have a way to stop your Rumble. This is when he just outperforms you. You just have to accept it. Of course, like besides, like if Akali doesn't have any weak points, then like how's this game balanced? You feel?
Yeah.
And like this guy's just doing the same thing that I told you again, right? You play towards the minion wave, and then he's just gonna use ulti on you.
Yep.
Same song and dance, and we just have to accept it, and then just play around it a little bit better, and then we'll be in a better spot. Because if we get Gunblade, let's say that if you got 800, so like you're 800 gold shy, and if you had 1600 gold, like around this time, you would have had Gunblade at 13 minutes, and Dragon is coming.
That'd be pretty fat.
Right? That's my point. So like we just have to, and then I guess this requires a lot of practice. I don't expect you to know it, but get into a habit of tracking how much gold you get at a specific time. So like for example, like when I play Jax and I play on like a side lane, and let's say that I'm at like 20 minutes and I have like 900 gold on my belt, and I already have Triforce and then Blade of the Ruined King. I know that I could farm for Death Stands within 8 minutes.
Okay.
So like getting stuff like this, like getting that internalized into your head is really fucking important. Because if you do, then you get to be a Gunblade Akali at third dragon.
I really wanted that Gunblade in that fight too, because we would have just ran them down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start writing that shit down.
Mm-hmm. Because when you're allowed to like make movements like that, then I promise you that is one of the fastest way that you're gonna see the way that you improve. Because ultimately what coaches are supposed to do, also that guy's trolling regardless, is trying to give you like intent and point, like a reason why you do everything. So if you are not getting Sorcerer's Shoes and getting a Vamp Scepter instead, then that means that if I were coaching, that I would have succeeded. Because then you're doing it so that despite you not being able to use Vamp Scepter as effectively as Sorc Shoes, you understand that like by doing so, you're gonna be able to be in a better spot for you and your team at a later point. Because right now, the way that I see the way that you play Akali is that you're playing with no real good idea of what you need to do specifically in this game other than trying to beat this guy. And it's not working really well just because just because of the matchup, and if you do get punished like this, then people that are better than you will always beat you. And that's not what we want to do. Do you have any questions? Because I'm pretty much done with the content.
No. No, that all makes perfect sense. It explains a lot. And yeah, I feel like I could have just carried this one, actually.
There were some critical points that you could have like enabled yourself to be definitely stronger.
No, I don't have any questions that I can think of right now.
Okay. So nope. Do you is there anything that you would like specifically, like what are some major takeaways for you then? I would just like to know.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I probably didn't think at all about what the enemy mid laner wants to do, like his win conditions,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, especially the way I played the level 1 and I should have just been like standing on his like casters like that entire time. And then I feel like I would have just had complete control of the early game, at least mid side, and knowing when I'm gonna hit my items, something I never thought about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty huge. Like if I knew I would have gotten my Gunblade at 13.5 minutes or so, like I would definitely just held on to that gold, spent it towards Gunblade, and thing one of my another coach that I talked to mentioned is that like I don't attack from the side enough, and like particularly like cover the my footballer's side a lot. So I need to focus on that more because I'm still not doing it. Yeah, I guess it could have helped. I guess it could have helped a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that those are the good ones. If you want additional help in the future, just like keep me in the loop because I'm going to be doing like second rounds after I'm done with my first round anyway. So if you found this to be helpful, then just stay in touch, all right?
Yeah, I would love that, man. This was like super helpful.
Great.
I really appreciate the help, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no problem. So if there's anything else, I'm going to end the session now. So do you have anything?
No, I think I'm good.
All right.
Thanks again, man.
Mm-hmm.